It doesn't matter what you're after, what you're looking to become. If you don't go to the gym, it's gonna hurt you. If you go to the gym, it's gonna hurt you.
I'm okay with failing sometimes. I'm humble enough to understand that I can't be good at everything. I understand that I got to continue to work on my craft. I understand that I'm not the best at what I do right now. I understand that.
Do what you can, but not what you must. In every circumstance we face, we are constantly presented with these two choices.
Where they are on talking to that person that doesn't have a problem laying in obscurity, because you know that when you come out of the dark room, all eyes on you. We live in a culture of business, distraction and noise. And sometimes the only way something's going to change is if we disappear. Sometimes you got to delete the app. Sometimes you have to walk away.
I want to improve. That doesn't mean I don't struggle with my motivation from time to time. Doesn't mean I don't get confused or down. Of course I do, but I'm not for sale. You can't buy me. And you know this too. We see friends of ours, even guys in their 60s, and they sold their company for blah, blah, blah. And now they golf 9 days a week or whatever. You know, that's fine, but they're for sale. They were bought. You were bought. You were for sale. I'm not for sale.
Rule number 3, serve people.
Everything in your life happens for you, not to you. I'm just a huge believer in that. And so my baseball dream ended. I had an injury, probably gave me a premature end to a career that would have ended anyways in hindsight, because I played with enough great players that I kind of know there was a gap in just God-given ability level, not work ethic, but I think to be the greatest, there has to be some proclivity for it and work ethic, right? And so I kind of maxed out my limited abilities. And so when I got released, I ended up moving back home with my parents. I couldn't find a job. I was depressed. I spent about a year at my parents' house.
Your muscles are going to tear, but on the other side of that pain, there is a reward. There isn't any regret. You won't regret taking care of your body. On the other side of making those healthy decisions, there is a reward. It's the reward of discipline. It's the reward of longevity. It's the reward of influence. It's the reward of power. Do you want results? Do you want a reward? Or do you want regrets? The decision is yours. It's all hard, so choose your heart. Pain is inevitable and it is unavoidable. Pick your pain.
Sometimes you have to fall back into the dark room and focus on it. Everybody wants destiny, everybody wants. Manifestation, everybody wants. Fulfillment, everybody wants the next. Level and a relationship and a higher quality of living. But nobody wants to eliminate distractions. Nobody wants to disappear for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, and get into a place where you can focus on.
Just broke in every way, financially, spiritually, mentally, physically. I remember my dad came home. My dad had just got sober. And my dad said to me, hey, I met this guy at a meeting. I got you a job. You get your ass down there tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Getting out of this house and getting a job. And I'm like, okay, I have a college degree. You know, I'm being picky for a year, watching Maury Povich reruns every day on TV and Jerry Springer. I go down there at 6 a.m. I walk in, I said, hey, my name's Eddie Milet. I'm here for the job. They're like, what job? I remember this vividly, right? And I'm like, I don't know. They just told me you'd know. And they go, well, we have no idea who you are and we don't know what the job is. They said, do you know who's hiring you? I said, I don't remember. And they go, well, then you need to come back. And I go to the door and I go, wait a minute. His name's Tim. They're like, there's a lot of Tims. And I go, well, I know he must be an alcoholic because he was at a meeting with my dad last night. They go, oh, drunk Tim. We know Tim, right? And where I was a place called McKinley Home for Boys. It was a group home, a campus of group homes.
Everybody's got a plan until life knocks them out because we weren't ready for the pain. And when the pain came, we did not process it. Processing pain is a skill set you've got to acquire. It's a type of currency. If you want the future, if you want next level, if you want tomorrow, if you want to manifest, if you want this thing, I don't care what it is, then you're going to have to get acquainted with pain. The pain of discipline, the pain of growth, the pain of learning, the pain of giving, the pain of forgiving. It all hurts. So pick your pain, choose your heart. Because at some juncture in life, at some corner you're going to turn, you are going to encounter pain. And you've got to process that pain well. Hear me when I say it. Pain is unavoidable. It's hard to let go of the past.
If you could just shut out every distraction. What if you could just shut up the world for just a season and focus on you? A man is rewarded in public for what he does in private. Can you unplug for just a moment and focus on you? Focus on what matters. Why are you here? What is your destiny? The reason why you don't see it, the reason why it is not manifested, the reason why you are so frustrated.
But I realize it's only going to make me more driven. It's going to teach me to do better. It's going to make me want to work a little bit harder to get exactly what I need. Maybe this is the time to say that maybe, just maybe, this is the time for me to humble myself. A lot of people are not ready to be humble. It's okay to have confidence. It's okay to believe in yourself. You're supposed to believe in yourself. But many people are not ready to be taught.
Do it now or do it later. Discipline and procrastination. A choice between a disciplined existence bearing the fruit of achievement and contentment, or procrastination, the easy life for which the future will bear no fruit, only the bare branches of mediocrity. The rewards of a disciplined life are great, but they're often delayed until some time in the future. The rewards for the lack of discipline are immediate, but they are minor in comparison to the immeasurable rewards of consistent self-discipline. An immediate reward for lack of discipline is a fun day at the beach. A future reward of discipline is owning the beach. For most, we choose today's pleasure rather than tomorrow's fortune.
But failure is how we learn. Failure is how we grow. Failure doesn't make you weak. Failure teaches you. It gives you an understanding that you got to continue to work. And you got to continue to thrive on it. And walk in it. And run in it. And roll in it. Whatever it is you got to do, as long as you're proceeding to go forward, moving in it, getting where you need to be in your life. Not feel accomplished. We're not here to feel anything. We're here to go through it. We're here to learn from it. And sometimes you got to fail. That's how you will succeed. Wanting is always something that is going through our minds. You hear it all the time. I want. I want. I want.
So how can you get rid of the easy distractions? How can you keep your mind on what you're trying to do? How can you keep an attitude of doing it all and doing it now? How can you make the choice of discipline over procrastination? How can you stay focused on your ambitions? How can you avoid conversations at the water cooler? You can keep your focus on your work. You can get it done today instead of tomorrow. You've got to really work on your consistent self-discipline on a daily basis, or you'll find yourself distracted. Distracted by negative thoughts, distracted by negative people, distracted by water cooler chatter, and pretty soon, depending on the type of people you've associated with, distracted by your doubts within yourself. Never underestimate the power of influence and associations, and never underestimate the power of your own consistent self-discipline.
You have not been willing to forsake all that you've been called to forsake, and to follow through behind closed doors. So you can talk about it, sure. You can't plan it, sure. You can write it down, sure. You could go to the conference and hear about it. You could read about it, but at some juncture you have to disappear and put the work in and come back in shock. Everybody that doubted you, I'm talking to that man, that woman, that boy, that girl who feels the fire in their belly.
You must understand that life has a way of taking you through perilous times, transitions and traumas, adversities, crises, good days and bad days. I don't care how clean you live and how righteous you are, you're going to have trouble sometime. Life has a way of being its own schoolmaster. Over a period of years, without any college classes, courses, books, or tapes, life will teach you something. You soon learn that life has its own pattern and it has its own rhythm. If you are a connoisseur of life, you observe all things. You learn from all people. You learn from all life's events. And after a while, you start drawing conclusions. When you start drawing conclusions, you draw them not for the benefit of judging other people, but you draw conclusions in the hopes that you might begin to understand what life is all about. Because after you lived a long time, you wise up a little bit. Just by virtue of staying here on the planet, of surviving good days and bad days, of seeing the sequence of life.
The world is not like the movies. The movies aren't real. They don't exist. But you do. And this life it's better than any movie there is. Go out into the world and actually feel it. Go feel joy and love and triumph and rapture and ecstasy and glory. Go feel those things. And with those feelings, there will be other feelings as well. There will be sorrow and pain and sadness and desolation and suffering. There'll be all those feelings too, but you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Take both sides. Feel all of it. That's what life is. Those feelings, those emotions, those highs and those lows, those are life.
Survival is necessary, but survival isn't living. The real problem with life is that at some point, you've got to start living it. Participation is required. This thing is not a spectator sport. You have got to get in the game and sweat it out. Yes, you'll get banged up. You'll get tossed around. You'll take some losses, but you'll also pick up some important wins. Wins that go a long way to developing who you are and your contribution to this world. I'm saying you've got to live as though it's an easy thing to do. As though there was some switch in your bedroom you can flip to get your real life started. Oh no. Life is easy. It is. Life is easy. It happens spontaneously. It happens all around you all the time. Living is hard. How many rules must you imprison yourself with before you get it? Before you see that the rules you write to protect yourself from the mistakes you made, to protect yourself from where you came from and what happened to you, can become your prison if you're not careful. And I believe that that's what happens to most people. They go through life making tiny edits to living. Little footnotes that read, "She said my teeth were crooked, so I won't smile with my whole face anymore. Because I got hurt last time, I won't trust again. I was so disappointed last time I tried, I won't let myself want again." You see what I'm getting at? These rules start early, and sometimes they're forced on you. So I know living is hard. Being stuck in anger, that's a rule for how you should respond to a particular situation. Being ravaged by anxiety, that's a rule for how you should react to uncertainty. Indecisiveness, procrastination, these are rules for how you should react to opportunity. Rules, 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 they're everywhere. Damn the rules and ask yourself, am I living?
Finally, you begin to understand, I've got to get down to the conclusion of the whole matter. I've got to understand what is going on. And I begin to understand that life operates in cycles. It operates in cycles and stages and seasons. It goes full circles. There are sequences of events, and it depends on what cycle of life you're in, what you're able to do. And if you don't understand cycles, you'll miss your blessing. You only have a certain time period to do anything, and you have to do it in time. You don't have time to spend years contemplating your next move. You've got to catch the cycle. You've got to do it in season. You can't do it in the winter of your life. You can't do it in the autumn of your life. You've got to know when it's time for you to do it, and you've got to flow with that cycle, because if you miss that turn, life has to go all the way around again before you get an opportunity to be that effective again. If you ever understand that, it will cause you to change how you deal with people, because people and what they say will cause you to miss your season.
So make your own comic book. Make your life your own movie. Actually make it better than a movie. Not better because it's more adventurous or more romantic or more melodramatic. Make it better because it's real. So go out there, move toward the light, and live. It's real, so it is better. And you know what? Real comes with some downsides. Real comes with some darkness. But that's okay. It's okay, because when you know the darkness, the light becomes even brighter.
Am I going through life with my whole self? Am I fully experiencing the moments, or am I watching them go by? Am I doing all I can with the opportunities that life is presenting me? Am I enjoying life, or am I managing it? Are my happiness and my joy conditional? If I died today, would my life have been fully used up? I'm not preaching, I'm just asking. Living isn't just about the adventurous and the exciting things you do, the things you post on Instagram. Living is about the hard places. It's also about the dark places. Living is about where it hurts, going to those places. It's about processing pain, changing attitudes. It's about lifting those blocks, obstructing your path to the experience called living. If you feel this, if your heart is starting to race, if your mind is starting to churn, that's you. That's you saying, yes, I want to live again. I want to start living again. Don't tell me about change. I know about change. I want to know specifically, what are you going to do? Who are you going to forgive? What are you going to let go of? When do you admit that you have a problem? When do you conclude that maybe it's you? When do you allow yourself to love and to be loved again? What I do know is that this is the only life I remember. This is the only life I have, and I intend to use it up. I'm going to experience fully what there is. That means the victories and the losses. That means the laughter and the tears, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start living again.
I've resolved in my spirit, in my heart, that every experience is my education. So the good experiences and the bad experiences, I'm going to learn from that, and I'm going to discover the opportunity for me to grow and for me to get better. You have to make a decision that I will learn from this thing.
$1986, I'm sitting on the curb. My mama come home. She say, "Baby Ray, what you doing?" I said, "Mama, I'm waiting for my daddy to come get me." She said, "Baby Ray, your daddy ain't coming." I said, "Mom, somebody said daddy in town and he coming to get me for Christmas." She said, "Baby Ray, your daddy ain't coming." I said, "Mom, I'm not leaving. I'm going to sit right here." 7:30 came by, 8:30, 9:30, she came back out and said, "Son, get up. He ain't coming." I said, "Mom, he got to come. I'll be all right." I sat there till 11:30 at night. She finally walked over to me. She said, "Baby Ray, get up. He ain't coming." And I remember getting up from that freaking curve. And I told my mama that day, "Mama, no pain will ever stop me from taking care of you and my brothers and sisters. because nobody knows what I'm dealing with. The greatest pain a man will ever go through in his life is the disconnection of a father. When you know he living. I thank my father because we're friends now. But I thanked my father for not coming around me when I was a child. Because the way he was living wasn't the way I was supposed to live. So sometimes to really find the root of who you are, you must go back generationally and find out if you're following the same curses. That's what pain is. Pain is a repetition of the psyche. Until you learn how to figure it out, until you learn how to tap it on the back and say, I know you there, but I'm built to deal with you. I don't want nobody to leave here today and not understand why we must find a way to push through pain to understand that's on the other side of that is glory. The night before the Super Bowl, I retore my tricep. Couldn't tell nobody. I couldn't go to the doctors. I couldn't go to my teammates. What I was gonna tell them? That I can't play. I retore it. And it was bleeding so bad, and it was burning so bad that I took a shoestring from one of my shoes. And one of the fire spigots, I tied a shoestring around the tire spigot and tied it around my arm to hang my arm up just so I can get 3 hours of sleep. And I held it there all night, and that shoestring held my arm there all night. And I got up and I walked in that stadium. And I never forget this. If anybody's ever saw this ride, I came out of halftime and we busting San Fran up. I'm sorry if there's any 49er fan. You know, I know we're on the West Coast. But I come out of halftime and I stayed in there a little longer because I got ready to tell my trainers, I'm like, man, listen, I can't even punch nobody with my arm. It's hurting that bad. I said, I got it. A whisper came to me. It ain't about you. It's about the team. It's about the team. I came out the locker room, my arm burning so bad. Jacoby Jones was walking to the end zone to receive the kickoff. I'm running towards the sideline. My arm burning so bad, God said, go touch Jacoby. I turned around and put both of my hands on Jacoby's chest. And I said, I'm just doing what God told me to do. And I ran back to the sideline and I watched Jacoby go 109 yards. So everything that moment told me was sometimes your greatest pain, it ain't even about you. It's about a greater purpose.
I delegate everything that I think is not the single most important things in the world, and then I micromanage the things that I think are the most important things in the world. Luckily for me, hence why I've been able to build big companies, I don't think most things matter. So I don't think I'm any different than anybody else. I actually think everybody is a delegator and a micromanager. I just think that my radar of what's important is different. Yes, we need to do something with that. That's the guys. That's it right there. I'm just like you. We're all the same. We all delegate, we all micromanage. The difference is, I don't think most things matter. And what do I mean by that? As I'm trying to think about somebody watching this for the first time, instead of alluding to like people that have watched forever. Most things don't matter. Like, I don't know, like just, I don't know, that's what it means. Like, you know, like if I was like, I don't know, I don't think lighting matters as much as D-Rock. Like, I just don't think things matter. Like, I don't think like one client that's gonna put us out of it, like, I don't think one employee is gonna kill our atmosphere. I don't think a lot of things matter. I don't think like a misspelling in a deck is something that really matters to a lot of people in my company. It just doesn't matter to me. I just don't think so. Guys, I don't think we're gonna lose a count because we put the I before the E. And if we do, them. Idiots. I don't think not wearing shoes in an establishment is, you know, the biggest thing in the world. Clearly, if you've watched Daily V1, some people do. And guess what? I do not judge. Do not judge. Everybody's allowed to do their thing. It's just like parenting. I will never spew my parenting thing. I talk about it, but it's very holistic. Like, this is what I do, not what I'm telling you to do. This is me. So ultimately, I think that I'm both. Like everybody in the world, I just think that I deem what's most important at a very, very high level on things that most people, you know what? A lot of you are commenting about my 5-minute meetings. Most of you, because you're part of my community, think it's great. A lot of comments on YouTube and Facebook of like, oh, I like Daily V because Gary spends 5. That's nice. One comment, I work in a small, and by the way, whoever said this is gonna see this and be like, holy crap, he reads everything. I've worked at small companies where the boss didn't even know my name, you know what I mean? Like, this is cool, but do you know how many people think it's stupid? I have a lot of people in my life that think that I'm very busy and I have a lot of things to do, and why in the world, Gary, it's not scalable. It's not sustainable. Yeah, you're making that face because you're so in our cocoon, but like, boy, just like, you know, like, they're like, don't do that. It's not bad. Nobody expects you to do it, not at this scale. And you have a great culture and you have great intent, just do that. I'm like, nope, this thing matters to me. So I'm micromanaging a hello into my company 3 to 6 months in, that a lot of people outsource to an HR person or to leadership. So I do unscalable things all the time, micromanaging if I deem them the most important. Pitching new business, I like to micromanage that because it's important to win business. Like money helps me keep doing everything.
Some adults never figure out that unhappy states do not work when they're adults, and they continue to practice what they learned as little children for the rest of their lives, never realizing that it doesn't work. So the recognition that negative thinking and unhappy states actually do nothing to change anything. If anything, they make it worse. So if there's enough awareness and you can suddenly look at that, and then you can ask yourself from the deeper perspective of awareness, do I want to continue to think these thoughts? Is that helpful or good? Do I really want that? What is it doing? What would it be? How would I experience this situation without it? So you can, as awareness comes in, choice comes in. And then there are moments when you may be able to step out and just be present, and the negative mental emotional stream subsides, but it's not gone yet, because you don't get rid of it that easily. A few moments later, another thought comes into your head, and immediately a new train of negative thinking starts. And you can feel the pull of it. It can be very, very strong, especially if it's been in your life for a long time. You feel the pull of negative thinking. Come this way. This is so familiar. This is where you belong. This is who you are. And then you need awareness. So you can't fight the negative states, because that's another negative state. But you can be aware and see its futility, and ultimately see also how that you are addicted to it. But when you see it, you're not completely addicted anymore. You're only completely addicted when you don't see it. When you see it, you are the awareness. When there's no awareness, you are it. Then you are the ego. Then you are the ego that's addicted to unhappiness.
Men are hunters. What we enjoy is the chase of the hunt. Now, after we capture you, we're okay with that. We're okay with that. But after day one, you're not captured. We still hunting for you. If you break down after day one and you're not in a serious relationship right now, I want you to start thinking about the pattern. If you break down too quick on the guy, what is it? What does he have? What does he have? See, you may not like what I'm about to tell you, but men are aesthetic. We're just aesthetic creatures. I love it when my wife gets jazzed up. I love it. Now, if I come home 15 nights in a row, which I do come home very late, and she's already in her favorite little gray sweat outfit, and that's all I'm seeing for 15 days, I say something to my wife. I said, baby, we need to get up in the morning, have breakfast together, go somewhere, do something. But I tell her that, and she ain't got no problem. Okay, what you want to do? Because every now and then, I want to see who I ask to marry me. I don't want to come out here and bust my ass, and I don't get to see this person no more. No, what the happened to who I married? What I'm out here working for? I'm busting my ass. She's the same person, but still, you can be cute for you. That's cool. But your man also needs you to be cute for him. But let me ask you something. You have something you require of your man too. And you want it from him whether he feel like it or not now. If you want your man to be a certain way for you, he got to be that for you, don't he? If he don't, you're going to have a problem with him. Whatever it is, whether you want to see him dressed up every now and then, or you want to see him come home at a decent hour, or you want to see him be a better provider, whatever it is you want from him. You want him to treat your kids better, whatever it is you want. He got to do it now.
I should love myself. I can love myself, and so can you. I'm not different. I'm not special, but I am deserving of love. And if you can see that, you too deserve to be yourself and be happy today, you too could be happy in your relationships. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've been through, where you come from. You can decide today to take action and start loving your true self and embracing it. Because then you'll be free to love unconditionally. You'll gain the ability to gift that power to others and change every single person in your life. There would be no problem that's too big or too hard to solve. No struggle too difficult to overcome. No crisis too overwhelming not to band together and prevail. No person too broken that cannot be mended. Change, real change, simply starts with you.
I know.
True love. True love.
You outsource most of your sanity because it's too complicated. And so what you do is your parents raise you to be vaguely acceptable to other people. And then you're surrounded by other people your whole life. And then every time you go off the rails a little bit, even just a little bit, people signal to you. Like you make a joke, it's not that funny, and people don't laugh. And you think, oh, well, I should probably rethink my sense of humor a little bit or pay more attention. Or you tell a rambling story and you notice that everyone's like lost in the distance. And so if you're civilized enough so that people don't shun you and you have people around you, then they're going to be always telling you how to not be too insane. Well, if you're alone, you drift. You drift, and you'll drift in the direction of your biggest weakness. And so, there are some people, maybe they're introverted and disagreeable. They're not cut out for a lot of social contact. But we're social animals, man, right to the core. And it's a suboptimal solution for the vast majority of people. I think that people are having a harder time finding, let's call them more permanent relationships, is because it's become increasingly easy to have fleeting, casual sexual relationships. I mean, Tinder is a revolution, right? It's a revolution in sexual behavior, and it's certainly not obvious that it's
Is it a social thing? Is it just technology? Is this what people want to be doing? Because you think the
easier,
yeah,
in some ways,
but the technology has enabled this fleeting sexual activity.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. And that's, but we don't want to underestimate how radical a technology that is. That's especially for men.
I do feel that deep down that all these people, men and women alike, are always longing for something more meaningful.
Well, I think that that's generally the case. I mean, part of the reason for a relationship is sexual contact, obviously. Well, that's you don't necessarily need a relationship for that. But that's not the reason to be with someone. The reason to be with someone, when there's a lot of them. So one is, well, kids who have two parents do far better, period. The data on that is crystal clear. Doesn't mean that there aren't many single parents who struggle to do a wonderful job. Yeah. That's not the same thing. It's an average issue. So you need, plus, it's a lot of work to have kids. You kind of need to divide up the labor, especially in the first year or two, because the woman is completely overwhelmed in the first year, and she needs somebody around to take care of her while she's taking care of the kid, fundamentally, or at least that's the way it looks to me. So there's that. You need the stable basis for children, and it takes them a long time to mature, and they need to learn that relationships are trustworthy, right? So there's utility and stability there. But then also, you kind of want to tangle your life together with someone, because you have someone it's like two ropes that are tangled together. It's stronger, especially during times of weakness. And you have two brains instead of one, and that actually turns out to be really helpful when things are complicated. And it builds a solidity into your life and and a reality into your life to have someone who's along with you on this very long voyage. And so I think that deepens your life in a way that isn't really possible with fragmentary relationships as a single person.
Definitely.
And then there's more to it than that. It's like, I think of wrestling. There's this scene in the Old Testament where Jacob wrestles with an angel. He's wrestling with God, actually, which is quite an interesting, that's what Israel means, right? Wrestling with God. Yeah, that just blew me away when I learned it. It's so
Is that true?
The true people of
Hebrew?
Israel are those who wrestle with God.
Wrestle
Yeah,
with
it's
God.
not believe exactly. It's a whole different thing, man. It's a whole different thing. And
Isn't
so,
it like fear from God? What it means? That's what I thought.
well, from the work I did in the last couple of months looking at this, and I looked into it quite deeply, it does mean wrestling, essentially, and it does derive from that scene in the Old Testament where Jacob wrestles with God. That's when he gets the name Israel. And his hip is dislocated, right? Permanently. He has a permanent limp after that. It's no joke. But I think of marriage the same way. Like people think, well, they lived happily ever after. It's like, that's not what you want in a marriage.
Yeah.
You want someone to contend with, you know, because you learn through that wrestling, you know, like you learn where you're an idiot and where you should stop being and vice versa. Yeah. So that's the spiritual aspect of marriage. It's the fact that you have to contend with someone under all sorts of circumstances, theoretically is what would you say? It's a manner of promoting psychological, or you could say spiritual growth. And it's genuine. You know, that's why marriage is a sacrament in most human communities, right? It's stamped both by the state and by the sacred authorities, because it's not just a physiological union. That's what animals do. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with the physiological union, but it has to be placed in the context of everything else a human being is. And I do think it's dreadful for people not to have that. And
do you think it's become harder for people to have meaningful, lasting relationships, or has it always been this hard? I feel like I thank God that I'm not dating now, because I feel like it seems like it's miserable out there right now.
Well, it's hard
try to meet people.
It is hard although, you know, it's easier to meet people because there's more ways of meeting them.
Right.
But the ways of meeting them are more shallow. In my clinical practice, I would say that the rise of the internet dating option has actually overall been good for people who are looking for a partner.
The freedom to find out what the truth is. That's why I won't call myself a truther, because I don't know what the truth is. I know what the truth isn't, which is pretty well everything they tell us. But what is the truth? And I'd like to know as much as anybody else, but the fact of the matter is we don't have the freedom to know. People can go out there and pretend that they're gurus and pretend that they know all this and know all that. Most of the time they don't. I mean, even when we discovered Tartaria and discovered the ancient civilization that exists right under our noses, right in all of our modern cities, just scattered in amongst it. You know, when we first discovered that, it made me realize that everything I thought about history is wrong. I mean, I knew history was wrong. I wrote a book about it. I wrote all this stuff, and I still agree with a lot of the stuff that's in the book. But so much of it was all based on the concept that the timeline was correct. It was all based on the concept that, you know, we'd actually built these cultures up from the ground up, and it was done by our societies. And not that we moved in and simply took over real estate, but we did. That's all we did. So, you know, the truth, whatever you think the truth is, seems to be subject to change. You know, the truth seems to be based on what people believe the truth to be, which is why I've often said belief is the enemy of knowledge. You've got to establish the freedom to find out what the truth is, and don't allow yourself to believe anything. If you're going to believe in anything, believe in your own sovereignty, believe in your own freedom, believe in your own power to make change, your own power to have the idea that could change the world. No matter what your status in society, you know, no matter whether you're rich or poor or physically able or not, you could still have the idea that could change the world, because everything that we see here is all based on ideas. It's just an idea.
All around the world, you see this recurring theme in different cultures, and it's described in different ways, but exactly the same in theme. We have a force, an expression of this Wetiko that takes a reptilian form. And the cultures around the world, again and again and again, when they're doing their creation myths, then some kind of reptilian, lizard-like, snake-like entities are described. So if you take the biblical version, you have Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And Adam and Eve are symbolic of, first of all, what humans were like before what became known as the fall. What the hell was the fall? The way I've seen this is that there was once not something that you'd call human. It was a state of consciousness that was experiencing a world, a frequency band that was like the one we're experiencing, but on a much higher level of awareness, consciousness, frequency. So things weren't happening in dense matter and low, slow frequencies. They were happening on a high frequency. Things were much more ethereal.
That there is a field of energy and that we have the language to use that field. This is an actual page out of the Gospel of Thomas. So we know that this ancient gospel actually existed. And you can see some of the letters. These are Greek letters. You can actually read some of, if you know Greek, you can see some of the Greek letters right here. In the Gospel of Thomas, two very important keys. This was written right around 300 years after the time of Jesus. In this gospel, okay, so here's what we're doing. We've been in the Buddhist monasteries in Tibet, and they're telling us that feeling is the prayer, 1. 2, that we must feel as if our prayers have already been answered. Okay, and now we're in an Egyptian monastery with the texts that used to be our tradition before they were edited. And we're going to look at the instructions that tell us how to do that. Okay if we do that? Is that good? Okay. Gospel of Thomas. If you have a copy of the Gospel of Thomas, this is verse 106, translated from the Nag Hammadi Library. And if you do not have a copy, it's in our books, and you can go to any library and pick this up. Verse 106. Look at what the Lost Gospel of Thomas says. It says, when you make the two, thought and emotion, one. So the Gospel of Thomas is talking about thought and emotion. It's saying when you make your thought and your emotion one, look at what happens. You will say to the mountain, mountain, move away, and the mountain will move away. Saying that when you can marry your thought and your emotion into one single potent force, that is when you have the power to speak. Let's go back to the Gospel of Thomas, another verse. Now this is verse 48. It says almost the same thing. This was so important that it was recorded at least 3 different times in the same gospel. Look at what this says. If the two make peace with each other in this one house. When Jesus is talking about the house or the temple, what is he talking about? What is he talking about? Precisely you. You are the house. You are the temple. If the two make peace with each other in this house, if thought and emotion become one, if they make peace with each other in this house, look what happens. They will say to the mountain, move away, and it will move away. He's telling us again, in a completely different verse, how powerful it is to marry thought and emotion. But they still haven't told us how. How do you do this? That's the next piece. In the early Christian Bible, your Bible today, there is a passage. How many have heard, ask and ye shall receive? Have you heard that before? Ask and ye shall receive. Have you heard that? I know people that ask and ask and ask and nothing happens. Because the asking is not done with the voice. The asking is not done, please, please bring this to my world. That's not asking. To ask, we must speak to the field, to the divine matrix in the language that the field recognizes. And a language that's meaningful. The field doesn't recognize our voice, it recognizes the power of our heart. Remember this morning, our heart, we have a feeling, creates electrical waves, magnetic waves. That's the language the field recognizes. So when you create the feeling in your heart as if your prayer is already answered, that creates the electrical and the magnetic waves that bring that answer to you. And you're going to see this in just a moment. Ask and ye shall receive. While we still have this passage in our text, in the Bible that you have today, the King James Version, John 16, 23, 24, what you have is the condensed version. You have the edited version. The edited version looks like this. This is the edited version. Whatsoever ye ask the Father in my name, he will give it to you. Hitherto have ye asked nothing in my name. Okay? Ask and ye shall receive, that your joy may be full. Okay, this is the edited version. This is so amazing to me because they took out the two sentences that tell us how to ask.
Ask and it shall be given you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. That sounded pretty optimistic again. But again, I think it's a description of the structure of existential reality. And by which I mean, when I'm in my clinical practice and I observe, and this is also the case with my students, is let's say, people's lives aren't what they would like them to be. And so then you ask, why? Well, forget about tragedy and catastrophe, because that's self-evident, and we're not going to discuss that. Although the degree to which you bring about your own tragedy is always indeterminate. But I would never say that every terrible thing that is visited on a person is something they deserved. I think that that's a very dangerous presupposition, especially because everyone gets sick and everyone dies. But one of the main reasons that people don't get what they want is because they don't actually figure out what it is.